Hey guys, it's me, Captain Waspbear, and I know that basically I was actually meant to do this with my YouTube team, pretty much Awesome Universe, but pretty much, not everyone had watched the movie yet because of, obviously, personal reasons which I won't go into, but, pretty much, I'm actually going to do the movie review by myself and everything. Sorry guys that it took this long, it's because I was waiting for the team pretty much to do it with them, but they pretty much, some of them are busy, some of them haven't watched the movie yet, but just know this, a lot of the people that have watched it love the movie, just like I do, and many others, so yeah. But anyway, just before I do my official movie review of Marvel's Ant-Man, the 12th installment and 12th movie released by Marvel Studios for the Marvel Cinematic Universe, I just like to say it's a great movie. You guys should definitely watch it. It's an 8 out of 10, and I absolutely loved it. But let's go for it, shall we? Pretty much what it does is, the movie starts at like 1989, pretty much, or the late 80s, I think. And then basically it shows a younger Hank Pym pretty much talking to an older Howard Stark, an older Agent Peggy Carter, and also another, I think, like somebody working at S.H.I.E.L.D. And pretty much they want to use his, his technology, his particles and everything, but Hank Pym says no, so he quits, pretty much. Then it's years later in the present time, and it shows, Scott Lang pretty much, pretty much, about to, he's pretty much in prison then, he's saying goodbye to people and everything, and he ends up getting picked up by one of his friends in prison and everything. He then, lives with him, Luis, and pretty much he also meets, his two other friends, one character played by T.I., the rapper and singer, and another played by the guy that played, I think, the mental character in The Dark Knight. I can't remember, but he was really good in this movie. And basically, Louise was telling Scott about, pretty much about this job and everything that he heard from his buddy and everything and stuff about, like, this really rich guy's gonna be out for like a week and everything. Scott doesn't really care at first because he's more interested in looking after his daughter, Cassie Lang. He ends up going to, like, her birthday and everything, but, pretty much the boyfriend of his ex-wife is pretty much a dick to him and everything, and she even tells him to, like, to not really be around her too much, especially after he, like, robbed a really, really, like, really huge thing from the government and everything and stuff, so that's why he ended up in prison for a lot of years. Then he, also you see him at this crappy job and everything, like at McDonald's or something, and then it's like similar to McDonald's. I don't forget it's McDonald's, but anyway, he gets fired from that and everything because of his record of who he is. And yeah, and then eventually he just takes the job for Luis. He ends up going to this house and everything, and he starts, pretty much you see how he does it, how he robs places and everything, and he ends up, like, he starts showing his skills. He ends up going into, like, free safes. It's like, and he has to do a lot to pretty much do it. That part was actually really, really impressive, so I'll give big credit to Peyton Reed for that. That was actually pretty amazing, that part, where he was figuring out how to open up the safes. Then eventually he opens the last one up, and he finds the Ant-Man suit. He ends up leaving with it, pretty much, and, Luis and him and the group pretty much see that it's like, it feels like it's a dead end. They end up going back to the next day. They're at Luis's place, and Scott Lang puts the suit on, and he presses a button and makes him go really small into the bath. Then Luis comes in, but he can't hear Scott, and he ends up, like, making him go down like the freaking drain and everything. And then Scott goes down like freaking, he starts going through like a party, and then he goes, he goes into a car and everything. It's like really crazy. And at the same time, Hank Pym's talking to him in his mind. Then eventually, Scott goes to bring back the suit, but then he gets arrested. But then at the police station, Hank Pym is there, and he ends up, like, telling him, he gives him one more chance. He says, pretty much, wait for instructions and everything. Scott goes back to his cell, and he sees that little ants are putting on, bringing him the suit, like it's a really small suit at the time, and then it opens up to a huge suit. Then the ants start pretty much doing a countdown together, which was really, really cool. I loved that part. And Scott pretty much, yeah, he ended up like, he ended up putting on the suit and then escaping along with the ants. He ended up flying on the ant called Antony, which was awesome and everything. He didn't know how to fly at first, that's why it was, that's why they almost crashed into things and stuff and everything. But then eventually he woke up and it was the next day. And then he meets, Hope Van Dyne, who pretty much works at Pym Particles, which has been taken over by the former apprentice of Hank Pym, and that is, pretty much Darren Cross and everything, who is Yellow Jacket in the movie, the main villain and everything. And by what we call of Darren Cross is, he's very, very, mentally unstable and everything. And he pretty much, ended up, voting out and doing a mutiny against Hank out of the company. Hank Pym and Hope pretty much have a very, very, really bad relationship as, Hope wants to know what happened to her mother, but, she knows that Hank's not really telling her the truth about it, and they've been very, very distant about it. They've only lately come together just because of what, Darren Cross is pretty much, getting very, very close to, pretty much getting the Yellow Jacket suits, going, pretty much, and the world, to sell them to the world, to the army and everything, and that will lead to a lot of chaos and mass destruction. Then, basically, after that, with Scott agreeing to do it and everything. Oh, by the way, right when Scott agrees to do it, it's awesome. They mention the Avengers and reference a lot. Plus, then that's when the training starts. So you basically start seeing, you see Scott put on the Ant-Man suit, and he starts, trying to do loads of things like go through a door hole. He starts, he's underground and everything, and he's communicating with the ants. It's really, really cool and everything. And at first, it's not going too well. But then Hope ends up showing him how to do it and everything by, thinking of the happy moments, believing in himself, and then he starts actually doing it, and the training starts going really well. He also starts learning, MMA skills, fighting skills with Hope Van Dyne and everything. Then obviously, Hank finally reveals the truth to Hope Van Dyne about what happened to her mother and everything. And apparently, back in the day, they were obviously both superheroes. They were the first ever superheroes ever. Well, that's not completely true because of Captain America in the 40s, but you know what I mean. But, and it shows they were on a mission, and, you see the Wasp in her suit, but she was in more a red suit instead of the yellow suit, but we'll get more into that later. But Janet was thought to be dead, basically, because she ended up going into, when she saved the world and everything from that missile from exploding, she also, went into the quantum realm and everything. Now, I'll get into that a little bit later in the movie, because that's pretty interesting. But, and she disappeared for, forever. So, Hank lost her, and also sent Hope Van Dyne to pretty much, I can't remember, I think it was what type of school was it again? I think it was like a private school or something, I think so, yeah. Then eventually, the relationship with Hope gets better with Hank and everything, because they finally, have pretty much revealed the truth to each other. Scott eventually, then Darren visits the house, and he was going to kill Hank Pym, but then he noticed that Hope was there, so he left and everything. For the big heist mission, Scott ends up oh, actually, wait, before we get to that part, pretty much, this was a very interesting part. Right after, they made up Hope and Hank, they ended up going on a mission. Scott goes on a mission in the sky and everything, and he pretty much goes to go get this object, but he ends up in the Avengers base, where, that's where in Age of Ultron, where they were at the end, and he pretty much lands on there. The Falcon, yes, played by Anthony Mackie, of course, ends up going towards him, and they have a big fight and everything. Scott doesn't actually want to fight him, and he's actually pretty nervous by being in the presence of an Avenger, but he still fights back, and it's actually a pretty awesome fight. Then and also that actually leads really well, more into the movie as we go on. Pretty much, Scott retrieves, the object and everything, even though Hank thought it was reckless to fight an Avenger, but he was okay after that, after he had the object. Then basically, after Darren Cross visits the house and everything, after that point, Scott pretty much assembles his little group of Louise and their two friends pretty much to join the crew. Then the heist happens and everything, and the whole mission's going really, really well and everything and stuff, because Darren Cross is going to reveal the whole Yellow Jacket to everyone and everything and stuff. But at the same time, things go wrong as Darren pretty much, captures, he ends up capturing Ant-Man, and also, he's going to end up selling the Yellow Jacket suit and particles to the likes of Hydra and everything, because some Hydra agents, and it reveals the guy at the beginning was actually from Hydra. So pretty much, and then pretty much he's about to kill Hank Pym, and it's a big moment, and then Ant-Man saves him. Hank does get shot, but then he's fine later and everything, and gets to, pretty much the paramedics and everything. Then Ant-Man pretty much chases, Yellow Jacket on the helicopter and stuff, and it's an awesome battle there. And then eventually, finally, Darren Cross puts on the Yellow Jacket suit, and it's just one hell of an awesome fight. The Yellow Jacket suit is absolutely badass and everything. And then, pretty much, Scott gets arrested by, the douchebag boyfriend of his ex-wife, and he's getting taken to the police station, but then there's a report saying that there's an incident going on at the place of, Cassie Land's house and everything, the daughter of Scott Land, so they head there and everything. Yellow Jacket pretty much has got, he's pretty much got, as a prisoner and everything, he has got Cassie Lang and everything. So then Scott ends up getting out of the handcuffs and ends up getting in there to have a big battle with Yellow Jacket. And he ends up doing, at the end of it all, where the boyfriend actually also pretty much, in a way, tries to help also Scott and everything. And Scott ends up doing the Quantum Realm thing on himself and also Yellow Jacket. That kills Yellow Jacket, but that also sends Scott into the Quantum Realm. But because of pretty much his daughter and everything, his daughter, and also remember, he also has an extra Quantum Realm thing, device. He ends up using it to go back to pretty much, reality, basically. Then at the end of it, pretty much, the whole Pym Particles also gets destroyed and everything, and the Yellow Jacket suit is gone. So the world is basically saved, and Scott ends up saying goodbye to Hank Pym and everything, and stuff, and also Hope Van Dyne. Hope Van Dyne and that kiss, and also, Scott ended up telling, Hank that he actually went to the Quantum Realm and came back, so this gives Hank hope to find, Janet Van Dyne in the future, and basically, bring her back to reality. Pretty much, and then right at the end of it, Scott ends up visiting, Cassie, his daughter, and he's actually okay to visit her from now on as the boyfriend stopped being a douchebag, and his ex-wife's allowing it. And then right at the end, Louise tells him about a new job and everything he's got for him, that his friend said to him, and basically it goes all the way to the likes of Sam Wilson, aka the Falcon, who is looking for someone who can shrink, but at the same time, when he was looking for a superhero, the girl at the end ended up looking for saying, "Are you looking for someone who can, web crawl and everything, and like fly and everything like that, and swing and everything?" And that was a great reference to Spider-Man, so that was awesome. But at the end, pretty much, Falcon recruits pretty much Ant-Man at the end because he said yes to Ant-Man joining, the Avengers and everything. But right at basically the two post-credit scenes, pretty much Hank Pym shows the new official Wasp suit that Janet Van Dyne and Hank Pym were working on throughout the years for Hope Van Dyne, and it's basically yellow, and it's an awesome looking suit and everything, and pretty much at the end they say that they're going to be working on it together. Then also, the second post-credit scene is showing Falcon and, and Captain America. They ended up they've officially found Bucky, aka the Winter Soldier, and also they pretty much have got like this dangerous job that they're going to do, and they say they're not going to tell Iron Man, and pretty much Falcon says he's found a guy, hashtag AKA pretty much Ant-Man. So that's the end of the movie, pretty much fully. Well, I thought it was an absolutely great movie, 8 out of 10. It was super funny, the action was great, the story was really, really interesting from start to finish. It was a great redemption story. I thought Paul Rudd and Michael Douglas were just perfect in their roles. I thought Evelyn Lilly as Hope Van Dyne was freaking badass. I thought the crew was funny as shit, and also, I gotta admit, I think, Corey Stoll as Yellow Jacket, I thought he was creepy, and he was really badass in the movie and unstable, so I found him an entertaining villain. I thought this is one of Marvel Studios' best movies so far. I really, really enjoyed it, and I thought it was awesome, so yeah. Well, guys, leave a like and comment for your opinion, subscribe for more videos, tell me how you thought of Ant-Man. Did you love it? Did you not really love it? Or, how do you rate it and everything? So yeah, I love this movie. I definitely recommend everyone to keep going and watching this movie. This movie deserves to make a lot more money at the box office as it is making a lot of money, but it deserves to make a lot more. And this is one of the MCU's greatest movies so far. So yeah. Alright, bye guys, I'm out, and bye.